Mhm. Okay, so this is a guided meditation on breath meditation. And then if you wish to have another object like for Julia, then please just substitute that for when I'm talking about the breath and just substitute the object that fits for you. So as I mentioned yesterday, the first thing you want to do is get the body comfortable because our goal is to still the mind, bring the mind eventually to stillness. And the reason we want to bring the mind to stillness is because in that stillness, we're able to see reality clearly. And when we see reality clearly, that brings us to the insights that lead to awakening or enlightenment. So that's the ultimate goal of our meditation practice. And it's very difficult to bring our mind to stillness if our body's screaming in pain. So we want to just take a few moments at the beginning of any meditation practice to just notice what the body needs to be comfortable. So common things are if you're sitting on a chair and your feet don't touch the ground, you want to have a cushion or something under your feet so that they're not dangling. If you're sitting on the floor in a cushion, you want your thighs parallel to the ground. You don't want your knees sticking way up in the air, because if the knees are up in the air, you're kinking off your nerve supply and your blood supply, and you'll soon be in agony. So if your knees are up in the air, then you need to have a higher cushion to sit on so your thighs become parallel. And then if the knees aren't dropping right down to the cushion, they're sort of hanging out in midair, even though the thighs are parallel, then you want to put a support underneath your knees so they're feeling supported. Then the other pain that often happens is a pain across the upper back just because of the weight of the arms. And so if that's happening to you, just putting a blanket or a cushion in your lap and having your hands rest on top of that can just relieve some of that tension. So we have cushions in the cart here, just in front of me, and then in the laundry room. So if you notice that some part of you needs to be propped or supported, please feel free to get up and get a cushion and help out your body. So once you've attended to your sort of the support of your physical body, the next thing we want to do is to relax it. And we can do this with a body scan. And there's many ways to do the body scan. So in this guided meditation, we're just going to start at the top of the head and work down. But that's not the only way you can do it. So bring your attention to your scalp and just image all the muscles of your scalp just loose and relaxed. So to image them just sort of drooping off the skull, nice and relaxed. Then bring your attention around your eyes. Let all the muscles around your eye sockets just be loose and relaxed. And coming down to your jaw, allowing the muscles of the jaw to be loose and relaxed. And then noting the position of your head sitting on that little rocker bone of the first vertebrae. So just you can just rock your head gently back and forth a little bit and find the perfect balance point. So your neck muscles don't have to do any work. Your head is balanced on your neck, and that allows us to relax all of the muscles of the neck. Just image them drooping off the neck vertebrae, loose and relaxed. And then coming down to the shoulders, which sometimes we walk around with our shoulders up around our ears. Just allowing them to relax down. And then flowing down your arms, just imaging the upper arm muscles just drooping off your humerus bone, loose and relaxed. And then the lower arm muscles, soft and relaxed. And then all the little muscles of your hands, just puddling on your lap. And coming to your torso, the upper third, just image all the muscles of your upper chest and back, just drooping off your rib cage, nice and relaxed. And then down to the middle third of your torso. All the muscles of the middle part of your chest and back. Totally relaxed. Then your belly, soft belly. Let it relax. You don't have to be sucking it in. Just let all the muscles of your belly relax. And then to the bottom of the torso, the hip region, the pelvis. Just feel how you're nicely supported by your floor cushion or chair or bench. So all the muscles can just relax onto your sitting area. Just puddle there. And coming down to your thighs, again supported by your seated position. So you can just image all those large muscles just puddling down onto your cushion or bench or chair. Nice and loose and relaxed. And continue down to your lower legs. Again, being supported. You're not standing right now, so all the muscles there in your lower leg can just relax. And finally, pay attention to your feet. Again, they're being supported. They're not having to hold your body weight, so they can just puddle on the floor. And if you need to go through the body scan a second or third or more times, then please feel free to do so. Just going to gently repeat the scan as needed to just have the body as relaxed and comfortable as possible. And when the body's totally relaxed and comfortable, then there's nothing really happening except for your breathing. So it's at that moment when you're just doing the body scan and there's no part of your body that's speaking to you. And the only thing in your awareness if I wasn't speaking to you, is your breath. It just comes to you. So that's when you switch your attention from the body scan to your breath, when it just naturally comes to you. You don't need to go out and search for it, look for it. It comes to you because nothing else is speaking to you at the moment. And you don't have to interfere in any way with your breathing. You just notice the breath coming in. You notice the breath going out. So it's a very gentle, soft awareness. As I mentioned yesterday, I like to think of myself just lying on a beach. This is sort of my free beach holiday. Lying on the beach. It's warm, it's comfortable, I'm relaxed. And I can just hear the waves lapping in on the shore and then lapping out. And those waves are like my breath, just gently coming in, gently going out. And just as I don't have any control over the waves coming in and out, I don't exert any control over this breath coming in and out. It just does it all on its own. And I'm just being aware of it, gently, softly aware of it. But just have that awareness for the next few breaths. As I mentioned at the beginning, our goal is to gently, over time, coax our mind into stillness. And one of the analogies the Buddha gave is this training of our mind to go from busyness and stress into peaceful stillness. He said it's like training a wild horse. And first of all, you bring that wild horse into a very large corral. So it has lots of room to run around. So that's what we're doing with this first step. Just being aware of that breath coming in and coming out. And if our minds sort of run around and think about this and think about that, that's okay in this first step. Just as long as we have enough awareness that, oh, now it's coming in. And the mind might run off here or there, but that's fine. As long as we have enough awareness, like, oh, now it's going out. But we can let our wild horse of a mind run around in between that noticing of now the breath's coming in. Now the breath's going out. And as our wild horse gets a little less frantic, it's getting used to being in this large corral, we bring it into a slightly smaller corral. So it's a little bit more contained. And that's an analogy for us increasing our mindfulness, our awareness of the breath. And the Buddha suggests that we just notice the length of our breath. And just be very relaxed about this. There's no need to be precise, but just kind of noticing, is this in-breath kind of long or kind of short or somewhere in the middle? And then the out-breath. Does it sort of feel like a long, long out-breath or a short one, somewhere in the middle? But just do this in a very, very relaxed way. There's no exam. No need to be precise, just a general feeling. Kind of long, kind of short, somewhere in the middle. So we've just got our wild horse of a mind in a slightly smaller corral, and we're just paying a little bit more attention to the breath in between wanderings of the mind. And as our wild horse gets used to this slightly smaller corral, it's getting less frantic. Then we're going to lead it into an even smaller corral. So this is an analogy for, again, increasing our mindfulness on the breath. So in this smaller corral, we're going to allow our mindfulness to be aware of the in-breath when it first starts to come in. Just gently being aware of that. And then staying with the entire in-breath, being present to be aware of the entire time the in-breath is coming in. And then just noticing when it stops coming in. And again, we're not exerting any control over this. We're just comfortably lying on our beach and just hearing the lapping of the waves coming in. So we're just comfortably sitting here and just being aware as the breath starts to come in, continues, and then stops coming in. And then kind of noticing if there's a gap between the in-breath and the out-breath. Absolutely doesn't matter if there is a gap or isn't. You're just noticing what is. And then gently noticing the beginning of the out-breath and staying with the feeling of the out-breath all the way through until you notice it's stopped. And then again, is there a gap between the out-breath and the next in-breath? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Absolutely doesn't matter. We're just sitting here very relaxed and just noticing what's happening with the entire breath. Starting the in-breath, continuing with it, It's stopping, plus or minus a gap, beginning of the out breath, continuation of it, the ending of it, plus or minus a gap. Now, of course, even though we've got our wild horse of a mind that we're training and we've got it in this smaller corral, every once in a while it jumps the fence and leaves the breath and starts thinking about the past or the future, or gets pulled to a sound in the environment or a sensation in the body. And the first thing we do once we realize our wild horse is out of the corral, just when we wake up to that fact, and it may take a little while, we may get so engrossed in the thoughts or the sensations or the sounds that we're not aware that our wild horse has jumped out of the corral. But when that awareness happens, it's kind of like a nonverbal, oh, this is where my mind is. And then we don't try and shove away. We don't get into a fight with what our mind is doing. We just gently turn our attention back to the breath. That's the gentle way to let go of what's pull the horse out of the corral. Just gently turn your attention back to the breath. And we're just as gentle the millionth time our wild horses jumped out of the corral as the first time. Just a gentle, nonverbal, oh, this is happening. And then a gentle moving of our attention back to the breath. Opening the gate and letting the horse walk back into the corral. If you find that your wild horse of the mind is jumping quite frequently out of the corral, then there are some ways that some skillful means that we can put into place to sort of help keep our wild horse in the corral. So one of them is saying a mantra with our breath. So maybe you've been taught some mantras, you can use those, or you can just make up one. Like you can image when you're breathing in peace, and you can just silently say in your mind, peace, as you're breathing in. And then as you breathe out, you can image just releasing any tension, and you can just say, release, peace, release. Or you can just say a word, a mantra word on the out breath. Ease or relax. Enjoy. Just pick a word that has some meaning for you. I can use this for a while as needed, just to help your wild horse be comfortable in this smaller corral. Another skillful means you can use to help keep your horse in the corral is to count. And there's many, many ways that you can do counting. I'll just share a couple with you. So one method is you breathe in, and then on the out breath, you just note 1. And then on the next out breath, 2. And you just count up to 5 or 10 and then start over again. Or you can hold the number. If your wild horse is really skittish, you may need to be more continuous. So you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, you go silently in your head, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Then on the next out breath, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Again up to 5 or 10, and then start over. And then just a third method I'll mention, and as I said, there's many, many different ways. The third method is to, as you're breathing in and you're breathing out, you just count different numbers until the in-breath stops or the out-breath stops, like breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or you can go backwards on the out breath. So on the in breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And on the out breath, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, a skillful means that you can use for a while, just to allow your wild horse to be settled and comfortable in this corral, this smaller corral. Another analogy that I use for myself when I'm doing breathing meditation is seeing it as like a 3-step dance. So the first step is I'm just having this gentle, comfortable awareness of the breath coming in and out, and eventually being mindful of the entire breath in and out. So that's step one. Gentle, soft awareness, very relaxed, comfortable, content. And then step two, when my wild horse jumps out of the corral, when I wake up to the fact that the horse is out of the corral, it's a gentle, non-judgmental, just noticing, kind of a nonverbal, oh, my wild horse is out of the corral. And it's so important for this just to be a non-judgmental noticing. We have these things called hindrances, things that prevent us from coming to that eventual stillness of the mind. And one of the hindrances is this aversion or ill will or negativity. So if we're going, darn, my wild horse is out of the corral, and we're upset and distressed, then that's the hindrance of ill will. And that's going to go against our eventual goal. So it's just very important when we notice the wild horses jumped out to just notice that calmly, non-judgmentally. Oh, you've jumped out. And then the third step in this 3-step dance is to gently just turn the attention back to the breath. Enjoying that peaceful, soothing, reliable breath. And as I mentioned yesterday, sometimes our wild horse jumps out of the corral. Only yesterday I didn't talk about a wild horse. I had a different analogy, the analogy of training a puppy. But when we notice our puppies run off or our wild horses jumped out of the corral, we notice that gently and non-judgmentally, and we turn our attention back to the breath. But we find we're unable to do that. Whatever's caught the wild horse's attention or the puppy's attention and pulled us away just yanks us right back to that sound or thought or sensation. And it's not an easy thing to bring our mind back to the breath gently. We just keep getting yanked into whatever's happening elsewhere. So in that situation, one thing we can do is what's called the holding technique. It's the analogy of holding a hurt child. Just gathering that hurt child in your arms, soothing it, just Just holding it so it feels your love, feels the security of being with you. Because when we're being yanked away from our breath, then we're that hurt child. We're uncomfortable right now. So we want to metaphorically scoop ourselves up in our arms. Just hold ourselves with love, with security. And we do this by bringing our attention out of our heads. Because if we stay with the story of what's happening, that just fuels the suffering that we're experiencing at this moment. So we bring our attention away from our head and scan our body and find out where that tension is that's associated with whatever's brought us out of the canal, out of the corral, whatever's yanked us away. There's going to be some tension somewhere in the body. So we just do a body scan, find out where that is. And in my experience of working with a lot of people with this technique, the commonest place seems to be the heart chakra. But it also can be the stomach, like the stomach area or solar plexus. But it could be your jaw or your shoulders or your fists. Doesn't matter where it is, just gently scan your body and find out where you feel it. Then you're going to metaphorically hold that hurt child. And you just do that by just holding your attention there. So we've now let go of our breath or our meditation object. And we're now focusing on this tension silently, wordlessly, but sending love, sending compassion, caring. Caring for that part of you that's hurting right now. So since we're not up in our head fueling this tension with stories, once that fuel has run out, then that tension's going to ease off. So it's at that moment when the tension releases, then we're able to bring our attention back to our breath or our meditation object. So we do this holding technique, holding our hurting part with love, with compassion, with care. We do this when we're just not easily able to return our attention to our breath or our meditation object. Then we just take a little time out to take care of ourselves with love. And with time, as our wild horse becomes comfortable with this smaller corral, relaxed, it may lay down. And what we might notice is that our breath becomes so subtle that we can no longer physically feel it coming in and out. It's just become so subtle. So it's important when that happens that you don't let your mind run around trying to find it. Just stay there with the stillness. And usually there's a knowing, even though there's no physical sensation left. You can't physically feel the breath, the touch of the breath. There's somehow a knowing that you're breathing in, a knowing that you're breathing out. So just stay with that very relaxed, still knowing of the breath. And what will happen is the breath has become very subtle, but the brain hasn't sort of learned how to notice that subtlety. But after a little while of not feeling the breath, just being with the knowing, it's kind of like your brain learns how to notice that subtle. And so then you'll feel the breath again. So it's not because the breath has gotten stronger, it's because your mind has caught up with the subtlety and has now learned how to notice this more subtle breath. So you'll feel it again for a while. And then again, the breath becomes even more subtle and you lose the sensation. So just relax, stay put, be with the knowing. And as your mind becomes very still, it can start playing around a little bit, and we might have some different sensations happening. We might feel very light, like we're floating, or like our body's expanding up to the ceiling. Or it might feel like the hairs of our body are standing on end, or a tingling sensation in our body, or little energy rushes here and there. Or our mind might play around and throw up images. We might see a scene or an object. So just be very relaxed when these things happen. It's just very normal for when our mind gets still. And don't focus on these things. Just let them be there in the periphery. Our focus is with either the touch of the breath or the knowing of the breath once the touch disappears. As Aya said, we're going from complexity to simplicity, from coarse to subtle. So we don't want to be moving around. That's going back to diversity or complexity. We're just staying very still and quiet, relaxed, content with our breath, either the sensation or the knowing. And these other things can happen, and we just let them happen there in our peripheral awareness. Another thing that can happen is our minds become very still, as we might have the experience of lights, like little pinpoints of lights or lava lamp kind of lights that are moving up and down, different colors. Or our whole visual field may feel like it's brighter, that there's like the sun has come out from a cloud and lit up. Or it might be a more focused area. And the lights can be moving around or they can become still. So when this kind of a thing starts to happen, I just encourage you to sign up for an individual interview with I or myself to talk about next steps. So I'm going to stop talking now, so just carry on, enjoying being with your breath.